Hey, welcome to another episode of Powerful on Purpose podcast, where we talk to amazing women who are embracing their stories and using that to fuel their mission and their purpose in life. And I'm super excited today to introduce you to our guest, Lauretta Zucchetti. Although secretly we call her Zucchini, but just between you and I, right? And she is a delight. She is a writer, a speaker, and a life and transition coach because she's going to talk about some of the transitions she's been through so she can surely guide you through some of your own. As well, really, her super skill is helping women unearth their innate gifts, cultivate their emotional intelligence, and achieve their potential. So, thank you so much. Plus, they got about 20 minutes worth of other things that we could go into, but we're going to, because I want to get the juiciness of speaking to Lauretta. So thank you for joining us, Lauretta. Super excited to have you here.
Thank you so much, Leslie. It's an honor to be here. And I'm looking forward to sharing whatever it is that may be useful for your audience.
Absolutely. Yeah, go ahead.
No, it might be best if you just ask me pointed questions, unless you prefer that I just pour out, whatever seems to be appropriate.
Right.
You tell me.
Right. Well, you and I talked, and I would love to hear a little bit of your story. What got you into, or what's led you to this path of being really passionate about helping women and transition? And I know you're going through a big one right now too. So maybe you could share a little bit about that as well.
Sure, with pleasure. Well, looking backwards, I think I started when I was 5 years old. Because after my parents split, I ended up with a family, if we can call it that, that wasn't really good for me. And I tried to leave, literally escape several times. And so at that time is when my transition started. I realized later on that I was always looking for the best solution and not to stay in the status quo. And in life, after a few years of adolescence and work and starting to work and then marrying and all that, it started to awaken me a sense of needing to be something more and not just accepting things as they happened. We get to a point where we have a family, we work, we have a family, we have kids, and there is plenty to do. And you don't really need to think about what am I going to do or who am I going to be or where am I going to live, because things happen so fast. But I was never that kind of a person. I always try to go inwards and say, wait a minute, are we just a body that reacts to life, or are we more? And what happened is, unfortunately, and this happens frequently, it's a tragedy. I lost a baby boy. And when I lost that boy, mind you, I was at the top of my game professionally. I was in sales for a technology company, Apple. I was doing very, very well. And I thought, oh, well, I'll just go back to my old game. But when I tried to do that, nothing, absolutely nothing worked. It was like the whole world collapsed on me. And it wasn't just the sadness of having lost a baby. It was more the sense that life was much more than a job or money, or I already had a girl, it was the sense that I had to go deeper. I really did. I had to go deeper. So that was like a huge crossroad. I quit my job and went back to school. I I was doing way too much for others, not enough for me, which is another story for women. We do too much for others and not enough for ourselves. Went back to school and got a bachelor in women's studies, where I learned that women often miss out on their potential, on our potential for that reason, because we're always, naturally busy tending to kids and having kids, but also develop this innate sense of empathy and wanting to do for others instead of developing our own creativity, etc. And also a master in transpersonal psychology, because I felt like I had lost my innate drive and sense of who I was. And that really changed my life. I had a resume that literally could have, taken a company from A to maybe not Z, but definitely V. But it didn't do anything. No one was replying. It was like the universe was saying, honey, you're done. You're done. There is something else for you. But unfortunately, everything changed. I got divorced, everything. And I'm sure you've heard the stories, when your life is supposed to change, everything changes. So at that point, I moved back to Italy, where I'm from, and continue my inner search on how to achieve the closeness to our soul and less to the material, the outer aspects of who we think we are, and what it takes. The funny thing is, before I got to the point, I got to experience a little bit of quantum physics phenomena, which Joe Dispenza, Joe Dispenza talks a lot about it, and realize that no matter where you are, who you are, and in which culture we live, we can all take advantage of, because we have amazing abilities to not only survive, but to thrive. Because I found myself, I had 2 marriages, and after the first one, I was really down in the trenches. And I found myself trying something that I never did, which was to approach very high executives at Apple, and without even knowing where I was going, and I was hired on the spot. So that's what I experienced, quantum physics at work, and I was shaking, I was afraid, I was sweating bullets, but that's when I learned that we can achieve anything we want to, and there is no stopping us. And I also learned that to change from one state of being to the next, it takes a certain degree of discipline and effort, that it doesn't happen just because we think it. You have to put in some effort. And while you live your life, because challenges are there and you have to, continuously face them and satisfy whatever you have to, pay the bills, pick up the kids from school, whatever. But then add a little bit every day to what it is you want to achieve, and see yourself in there. And then it will happen. It will happen. Now, one word of caution. There are cultures where you can't escape where you are, or at least it's very difficult. Now that I'm back in Italy, I realize that it's very, I wouldn't say rigid, but there are certain canons and certain parameters that make it difficult for a person to just say, oh, I'm just going to try and work the fields in Australia, because what about the family? What about taking care of your elderly? What about leaving your sister? What about now? That's something to consider. Some cultures frown upon it, but at the same time, it is possible to change and to become who you want to become with maybe not so quickly. The last thing I want to say on the subject, then you can ask me all the questions that you want, is that we have to think of life as an ongoing process. We're not limited to one life only. We're immortal. We reincarnate. So in every life, we learn one little lesson. So it's not like in this life, maybe I may be learning faith. In the next life, I may be learning how to love someone, because we're just, the expression of the divine. We are a spark of the divine. And in every life, we come to completion until we come to completion, and then we don't need to incarnate anymore. And that is, for me at least, has been very useful to learn about that, because my master is a spiritual oriented master. So if you don't think that, it's going to be very difficult for you or for us to go on this path and not feel frustrated, because it may take a long time. It may take more than a few years to get to the point where you want to be, but that's
Sure.
okay.
Right. And I think sometimes along the path, it can get discouraging for people because it seems like it's almost messier, right? You sort of alluded to that. When things change, then like all these things that you might have relied on all of a sudden are breaking, and it's like, wait a minute. Like I thought I was moving towards something, and now it's just like feels like disaster, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like we can see now in what's happening in our social and political life. We're going towards a new dimension. We're going from the fourth dimension, which has been extremely patriarchal for so long, to the fifth, which is about love and more feminine values. But in order to get there is chaos. There are problems. Things have to fall down and reach a point of destruction almost. Otherwise, people won't realize it, and the old dogma won't be undone.
Right. So if we're moving to the fifth dimension and it's more feminine, like what advice do you give for women moving forward to tap into that, to like, and maybe that's, just what advice can we use to step up as we move into this new world order?
My advice is to stay very close to our soul, and what that means is spend time in quiet time, with less input from the outside. In silence. Just really let things settle. So I go to people's houses sometimes, and there is the TV on, and there is the music on. We don't need all that, because we need to hear from the universe what's happening. Our soul will tell us. We have guardian angels. We have our own guides. We have to let that speak to us about, okay, it's gonna be okay, but we have to be strong, because we're facing maybe 4 to 6 years still of challenges, and women have to not just survive, but become the leaders of the next dimension. And if we start shaking and becoming flustered and let the old guard take over again, it won't work, because the old guard is about rationale and numbers, and it's been very useful, and it is still very useful, but now it's time to introduce a different kind of way of living life, and it's about cooperation, it's about empathy, it's about love, it's about embracing, it's about being strong together, not separate. And women, we are essential in this new era, and I do think that to be quiet, and I advocate meditation, but meditation is not sitting like this and going. Meditation could be just being at home with your cat or your dog or by yourself, just doing very little or doing the chores, just letting everything. I mean, before speaking to you, Leslie, I was here not with my eyes closed, but just reviewing, what we were going to talk about. That's meditation. Going on a walk in nature, that's meditation. So it's very easy. Anyone can do it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's a super great point, right? Because sometimes I think if we haven't done that, yeah, like meditation, it's weird, or we got to have all these things around it, right, to do it, when it's just like, nope, you just got to be with yourself, basically.
Right. And in the Western world, we have so many distractions that I'm just going to go buy that. And before you know it, you're no longer with yourself, but you're with all these other people and things, right? And food.
Right. Yeah. There's so many different distractions. Yeah, we could go down a whole road of that, distractions and addictions, right? Even though they're like good or not bad, I guess, but they are in some ways addictions. So what as we make this shift, how do you see that impacting maybe our online businesses or us as business women, right? Will we need to make some sort of shift in our own worlds or in the business world to embrace that new shift coming?
I'm not a psychic, although I listen to a lot of programs about that because I'm
Great.
very curious. The predictions are that women are going to step in and be super valuable to this.
Right. And is
My
that you're feeling too? Because you have a lot of experience, with your own transitions and seeing how life has changed and morphed. So,
yeah, I think if you have the faith, very important. But faith doesn't mean religion. Faith means faith that things are going to work out and that you're strong enough to handle it. That's
right.
it. If you have that kind of faith, you can get through anything, right? You can really make an impact, and it's not egoic impact. It's an impact in this new arena, in this new dimension where you can actually participate and contribute in a meaningful way to what will be a new society, a new culture. And I think women are super essential in that. Now, my experience, and that's what I can help also, is when women were abused or neglected or as children or adolescents, that has a very strong impact on self-esteem and the ability to step up to the plate. That is something that needs to be repaired, because in my schooling, I studied Carl Jung, Erik Erikson. They help you rebuild the ego structure so that your child within returns. And when you come back to your innate self, life becomes the beautiful life that you felt at one point, but then it got lost because everybody kept saying, "You're stupid," bam. I used to be beaten as a child all the time. And at one point I thought, okay, I'm stupid. If you keep saying that and they're the grown-ups, I must be stupid, right? Or absolutely neglected. I don't count. You grow up thinking that, and you forget that you knew when we're born, we're so whole and so resilient, so strong and so powerful. And that is what we need to go back to. You don't see a child playing on the on the swing going, oh, I'm so stupid, I'm so bad. No, they really want to conquer the world, and if they could, they would, you know?
Right. Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm guessing that that's also what you help your clients do, right? Is get back to that
Yeah.
place of empowerment. I don't know. Yeah, we'll just go on because I saw that too. It says we're not being recorded. My end shows it's recording, so I'm not really sure. Hey, tech issues happen all the time, people, right? Right? Exactly, I know. Well, yeah, no, like, if people wanna get in touch with us, I know you have a free gift, a 30-minute consultation, and we'll put that in the show notes and a link to that. But is there, a place online that, like, they can reach out to you, maybe Facebook or some other platform? Nice. Yeah, cool. Oh, well, thank you. It's been delightful, and yeah, we could solve the world's problems, you and I. Might take us maybe 10 more minutes, but then we would get it done. I love that. Yeah. We're gonna solve the problems. All right, Loretta. Thanks for joining us, and make sure and subscribe so you can get more great conversations with amazing women who are changing the world. Thanks, Loretta.